Hello, and welcome to this amazing video. I am your 2020-2021 logistics captain, and this is my introduction to debate. Um, this should be part one, hopefully of three, but there might be more as I go farther and farther down the rabbit hole of what debate is. So as you can see on this lovely little notepad that I've made, this is kind of the outline for what I'm going to be talking about. So pretty much starting with what is debate. So in the current high school circuit, debate is managed by NSDA. So NSDA is this lovely little organization. NSDA is where you are going to be getting all your topics from, and they are the pretty much ruling force, ruling body when it comes to how debate is going to be managed. And I'll be going over, especially later in this video, like how to get information off of NSDA, because this is a very important resource to use. So jumping into it, so what is debate? Um, in the most common form you will be doing, which is public forum debate, you will be with a partner in a two versus two being spectated by a judge, and you will essentially just create a case, present, and debate that case. So, I will be going over the structure um, in just a minute, but right now I'm going to talk about the pretty much the main formats of debate. So we have public forum debate, which is what I'm going to be focusing on pretty much entirely. Big question debate, which is a different style within the same vein. So, in big question debate, you have topics that are a lot more vague and open to interpretation, and all in all, the style of debate is a lot less aggressive and more welcoming to newcomers. Lincoln Douglas is similar to public forum, except it's a lot more aggressive. There is a much different format in terms of how speaker orders go, and the topics you deal with are a lot more controversial and relevant. World Schools debate is something that you can maybe consider if you are a junior and you are decent at debate, where you will first compete on a statewide circuit and then move up to nationals, on teams of, I believe, five chosen from our district, from around the district, and we have one of the largest. So this is probably something you can maybe look at doing if you're a junior, but I really wouldn't get your hopes up. Extemp debate is something that occurs in national events and college level, and that is pretty much where you are given a topic and you simply just do debate. It's pretty much just debate combined with extemp. So you're given a topic, you have to research and write a case on that topic, and then you just deliver the speech. You deliver a debate. And then parliamentary debate is where you're stuck in the room with like 30 other people for 3 hours talking about irrelevant information. Never do parliament. All right, so now that we have this out of the way, um, you can pretty much scratch these three. I just thought it was important to mention so that you kind of know that there are other forms of debate rather than public forum and Lincoln Douglas. And big question can get pretty toxic from time to time. All right, so little disclaimer here. Debate is difficult. It is fun. It is unique. It is an experience, so to say. But above all, it is difficult. You, if you decide to commit yourself to debate, you are committing yourself to a task where you are putting a lot of work in and you are getting very little reward. However, the reward that you do get is meaningful. It takes a certain kind of person to be good at debate and to enjoy debate, And so if through the course of these videos and through the course of your own practice you decide that you are not that kind of person, do not feel bad. There are very few of those people, um, at least within our district. Now, outside of it, this debate is probably the most prestigious forensics event you can do. Yeah, and debate itself will net you a lot of recognition on college scholarships, internships, and just pretty much in general because people that know this style of debate know that it is not fun to do. I went to, let's just call it a seminar on debate, and they literally said at the college level we couldn't do this if we tried to. You guys are troopers. So this is not something that um, this is not something that is for the light of heart. So within debate, what you should expect. So you will have a start typing out. All right, so you will have a first speaker on pro, then you will have first speaker on con. Okay. And then we'll have second speaker pro and second speaker con. Speaker con. Okay. So this means absolutely nothing to you right now, but this is probably one of the most important things about debate. So pretty much what you have to do is you are given a topic through the NSDA website. So so you would just simply NSDA, boom, all right, topics, and let's figure out what this month's is. Just scroll down to Lincoln Douglas Public Forum Debate, 2020 September October topic. All right, so this is how you're gonna find your topic, which I will discuss this later. And then what you will do is you will write a pro case and a con case for it. I will go over how to structure your case and how to set it up in another video. But pretty much right now, what you want to do is you want to completely write out a pro and con case, load it up with evidence, and make sure that it can withstand, you know, evaluation, critique, questions, so on and so forth. Because remember, this is a debate. You are asking people on their content and you're trying to defend your own. That is how you win. Um, and so, pretty much when you walk into the debate round, it is going to be you, and yeah, it's going to be you, your partner, and your two opponents, and then the judge. So, I can't type. Judge, judge. Alright, so the judge. This is who you are convincing. You are not convincing this person. You are not convincing this person. You are not convincing this person, nor this person. This is who you are trying to win the favor of. Your opponents have their mind made up when the coin flips. Okay? And what I mean by that is when you walk into the room and when the round first starts, you will flip a coin. Okay? Winner, whether or not. Okay, so winner gets to pick whether or not they want to either speak first or second, or this is incredibly important, or they get to choose which case they want to argue. They get to choose the case they want to argue. So, okay, so let's go through a little scenario here. All right, so we've got Jim and we've got myself. Okay, so all All right, so we're gonna walk into the room. We're gonna flip a coin. All right, so I'm gonna call heads, and whoop-de-doo, it's heads. So now what gets to happen is, since I won the coin flip, I get to choose whether or not I want to speak first or second, or whether or not I want to argue pro or con. So, let's say, for example, I choose I want to argue con. Okay, so typically this isn't ideal. It's good in certain situations, but this isn't the best. Typically, I want to do this one because it gives you a lot of advantages for the second speaker. So if you have a really strong second speaker, you want to go with this option. If you have a really strong first speaker, you want to go with this option. But pretty much, so I'm going to choose con, which means that yeah, so I choose con. Now, Jim here, since he lost the coin flip, now has to pick the option I didn't. So since I picked which case we argue, Jim will pick whether or not I speak first or second. So in this case, Jim says I go first. So now I get up and I present my pro case, which is it's been a while since I've done debate, but it is 4 minutes for first speaker. Speech one. Speech one. Okay, so in this, what you want to do is you want to cover all of your material. Okay, so your first speech is the framework you lay the rest of the round on. There will be 8 minutes of laying down material because after you finish your speech, guess what? First speaker, speech two. So now what's happening is you've given your 4 minute speech. Now it's time for your opponent to do that. So that's all of his material. Okay, now once you get done with that, now you have to go into Crossfire, which is 3 minutes. Okay, so in Crossfire, you are asking questions. You are asking questions that are meant to undermine the integrity of evidence provided by your opponent or to contest points on grounds of falsehood, irrelevant. Let's see, irrelevance. Yeah, I misspelled that, but it's fine. Yeah. So to contest points on the grounds of falsehood, irrelevancy, and um, actually, I think that's pretty much the only two. You can always contest them on the grounds of man, I'm trying to find a third option. But yeah, so we'll just say false grounds of falsehood and irrelevancy. Okay. And so I'll get into what these are in a different video, but pretty much this is kind of what you were looking for. You always want to ask a question. So if, let's say your opponent says all whales are blue, okay? So in the crossfire, and let's say this is a very integral part of their case, all right? So then in crossfire, you're going to say, in your first contention, of your case, you stated that all whales are blue. However, orcas, for example, and belugas are black and white, respectively. How exactly? Alright, so this is a very, okay, so I just typed out a very aggressive question. Now, the wording is a little shoddy, but this just kind of came out. So pretty much, let's say your opponent says all whales are blue. So your response is like, so let's say first speaker will always get the first question in the crossfire. Okay. So in the crossfire, you're like, okay, in your first contention of your case, you stated that all whales are blue. However, orcas, for example, are black and white. So how exactly do they, fit within that category? How exactly do you view them as blue? How exactly is your claim a truth? So that's a very aggressive question. That is where you are trying to pick out falsehoods. Okay, now you can also use your questions to clarify something. So if you just have no understanding or they just made a really dumb point and you want to bring that to attention, so if they said something like, all cows are dairy cows, okay, and it's not really important to their case and it might link to something, which I will also get into what links are later, then you can ask them to clarify what they mean and you can do this under the hope that your judge listens to what they're saying and realizes that they are very stupid. So that is pretty much just a very, very quick rundown on Crossfire. I will also do another video on how to do better at Crossfires, but pretty much right now I'm just giving like an umbrella overview. So I'm gonna try and breeze through the rest of this. Okay, so let's get rid of this. So we've got 3 minutes on Crossfire. Ask questions. Okay, so now we move on to second speakers. Okay, so second speakers are 4 minutes as well for speech number 3. Okay, this speech is best not prepared. This is your rebuttal speech. Okay, so um, you want your second speaker to be somebody who can make up an argument on the fly. The second speaker needs to be good at note taking, impromptu, and um, cross-analyzing cases and points. So in my opinion, the second speaker is the more important one as or the more difficult role, I should say not more important, the more difficult role as it requires more preparation and more practice to do better than first speaker because the first speaker is simply dumping information and rolling with it. The second speaker, on the other hand, is trying to condense that information and embellish their own case in the process. Okay, and so now we have another 4 minute second speaker speech from the opposing team, which is speech number 4. Okay, so second speaker, speech number 4, and they just do the exact same thing. They just embellish their own, and then you go into another crossfire. Okay, this is very important. Okay, because this crossfire you cannot mention anything that happened from here up. So you cannot mention the first speaker crossfire. You cannot, and yeah, you can mention first speaker speech. Like you can mention the first speaker speeches. You can't, or here, this is, okay, so I'm doing a very poor job at explaining this. I'm a terrible teacher. Okay, so in this crossfire, you can only ask questions on what your opponent said in their second speaker's speech. Okay, so you cannot talk about, you cannot ask questions about what the first speaker said in their crossfire or in their speech. You cannot, you can only ask questions based on what happened in the rebuttal. This is very important, okay, because because you're just not allowed. It's just against the rules to ask what happened or like ask a question on the first speaker's speech. You can ask anything that was mentioned in the rebuttals. You just cannot ask anything that was mentioned before. Um, and then I guess I was kind of getting this, but I forgot. So in your rebuttals, You can mention, yeah, pretty much in your rebuttals, you mention everything that happens here first. If you were second speaker, okay, if you were second speaker and you have speech four, you cannot mention speech threes. You cannot, so like if in speech three they make just a blatant lie. So they say the sky is red. Okay, or no, sky is green. All right. So if they say the sky is green, in your rebuttal, in speech four, they cannot mention the sky is green. Okay? You have to reserve that for crossfire. In speech four, you can only mention what happened in speech two, speech one, and crossfire one. Okay? Now, now we get on to a lovely little thing called some. I believe, yeah, this is summaries. So summaries are 3 minutes long, and this is by first speaker, speech five. Okay, so summaries are also not prepared. This is summing up the final stages of the round. Okay, so with this, what you want to do is you want to start bringing in information so that your second speaker can end it out. Now, naturally, I'm sure you've guessed it, the first speaker speech five or speech six gets to happen. So each speaker has a turn, so doing the same thing, so summing up the final stages. Okay. Now what happens is there is something called Grand Crossfire, which is 3 minutes. Okay, so Grand Crossfire is between first and second speakers. So every single debater will be present in this crossfire. And the best format to go is you do first speaker, ask a question, and then second speaker, ask a question, and rinse and repeat. So ideally, everybody can ask 1 to 2 questions. Also, something that I forgot to mention, which is really important for crossfires. The order of crossfires goes first speech. So first speech asks first question, and you can only ask 1 question at a time. So you ask a question, your opponent responds, your opponent asks a question, you respond. Now, occasionally, you are entitled to a follow-up question if your opponent allows it. And it cannot be something big. Okay? It cannot be something big. So if you ask them to clarify something, okay, and so they just quickly clarify it, and then you ask them a follow-up question for timing purposes. So once again, going back to the sky is green. So if you say, okay, you said that the sky is green, can you list one example, or can you rephrase the sky being green? Or actually, we'll just go with the first one. Can you give one example of the sky being green? They say no. So then you're like, okay, so then wouldn't you agree with me by saying that that is a false statement? And so you can ask a follow-up question in that context. Um, Otherwise, you just move on. So you ask a question, and then you get asked a question. Typically, ideally, I should say, each debater can ask 3 questions. So make sure that you have those prepped on your notes, and I will also make a video on proper note taking. Okay, so we've got the Grand Crossfire. You can mention anything that happens across the debate. After that, it moves on to 2 minutes for final focus, and that is second speaker, and that is speech number 7. This is the final thoughts. You cannot mention anything, so this is something I see very often in my own experience. Speech 8 cannot mention anything that happened in speech 7. So if you are going to lie, Final focus is the time to do it. Because legally in the rules, speech 7 cannot be critiqued by speech 8. Now, that does not mean that people will not do that, because in my own experience, I have told lies as a second speaker in speech 7, and that has been caught by speech 8, and the judge rolled with it. Even though that is technically illegal, it is up to the judge's discretion about how they handle it and how they treat that evidence. So if you are speech 8, you can tell as many falsehoods as you want, and your opponent cannot critique you because they cannot call out your evidence. Speech 7 telling lies is a little more precarious. I would focus on telling smaller lies, maybe more exaggerations or something like that, but you only have 2 minutes, so your final thoughts have to be very quick and they have to be very concise. Okay, so final thoughts, and this wraps up the debate. All right, so there are only a total of 8 speeches. Okay, everybody gives two. So you've got, so you are speaking. So first speakers are speaking for 7 minutes, second speakers are speaking for 6 minutes. That is because the second speaker is going completely impromptu. The second speaker has nothing prepared, nothing formally prepared. And I will go over the rules of second speaker in a different video. I'm pretty sure this is dragging on quite a while. Um, I don't know how to see how long this is taking. Oh yeah, 26 minutes. So, yeah, this is gonna pretty much conclude the first video. The first part, I rambled a lot, and I know I'm very bad at explaining things. Hopefully, I'll get better as I go along. I'm a very poor teacher. If you do not understand any content that I went over, or you want me to rephrase something, feel free to ask. I believe that there are no stupid questions, only stupid people. So if you ask a stupid question, you are a stupid person. That's all.